This north to Alaska is a belt buckle of mine, and the show is called Alaska, the Great Land. I'm John Rodgers from over at Cuyahoga Falls, and Alaska is our subject for this time. The show is about 3 trips, 1977, 1986, and 1999. On the first trip, we drove out to Oregon and went up with a couple that we knew up to British Columbia and went on a cruise ship on up to Skagway and then over to the Anchorage area and Denali. The second trip, we went by train from Toronto, Canada, all the way across 3,300 miles to Prince Rupert and went up on the Alaska Ferry. Came back same way. Third trip, we flew to Fairbanks to start and flew back from Anchorage. Now, I opened this with an essay which I call The Great Land. It's dedicated to John F. Seiberling, who was our representative in Washington. And John has since passed away, but it's still dedicated to him. It's called The Great Land. I thrust my mighty mountains high into the sky, right up into the clouds. I spread rivers of ice over their backs and break down those same mighty mountains. And then in due time I melt those ancient ice masses and carpet my valleys with small shrubs, plants, and finally trees. And into these new areas I send animals, from my famous mosquito. The mosquito is considered the state bird in Alaska, to my mighty grizzly bear. And into the deep fields and sounds I send more animals, from the small fishes to the great whales. My name is Alaska. I am the Great Land. American bald eagles, humpback whales, wolves, caribou, moose, seals, all of these are my children, and that's a caribou that you're looking at. Deep water fields, rivers, valleys, and the highest mountains on the North American continent are part of me. Forests, tundra, and many other varied plant groups cover my vast terrain. Many square miles of my rugged surface are being made even more rugged by the action of glaciers, rivers of ice thousands of feet thick. But in time, that ruggedness will be softened by the growth of varied plant life. Many people from the Lower 48 are amazed to find that many places in my great land are accessible only by air or water, unless one is really good at overland travel of the most rugged kind. Even man's capital, Juneau, and that's what you're looking at, it must be reached by plane or boat. And many times the plane looks like this because it's a float plane. It has to land on water. I am high and wide, but my winter darkness and my climate discourage permanent people. 17 of the highest 20 mountains in your United States lie within my boundaries. Many are amazed that I am over double the size of Texas. In fact, I am 1/5 the size of the other 48 states combined. 49 states, I'm sorry. The distance span between my southernmost city, Ketchikan, and my northernmost, which is Barra, is about the same as that between Florida and Minnesota. That is a long distance. I span a range of environments, include both rainforests, which you have been looking at, and tundra. My elevation ranges from sea level to almost 4 miles above sea level. And with all that height and space, my population puts an average of only 1 person in each 1.3 square miles. Riches, glittering gold, or black oil, and that's signified by the pipeline here. They affect people in strange ways. Therefore, it's not too surprising to learn that my people, my native ones and those from the Lower 48, have problems. Ways have changed too fast. Money has come very fast. Ancient ties have been cut too quickly. And remember that I have long hours of winter darkness to match the summer sunlight that you see. And that darkness can be depressing. Drugs and alcohol do little to foster a love of my land. I think that's the end of the negative things I have to say. Life in my southeast section, some call it the Panhandle, involves water and the sky. Boats and planes must be as much a part of your life as fish and the forest. But to those who explore me in this area, the rewards are rich. To round the curve, slide by ice floes and icebergs, and meet face-to-face one of my tidewater glaciers is to experience a high level of encounter with an eternal process. Seals will slip off ice floes as you approach, and the glacier will carve icebergs before your eyes. Remember that mile-wide, 200-foot wall of ice also goes down many feet, and it is grinding the rock as it moves forward. And when you're back out in the Sound and watch one of my humpback whales display a mighty fluke, that's his tail, remember that a 30 to 35-ton living mammal has just bid you a temporary farewell. Life on my tundra is a harsh life. The growing season is extremely short, and permafrost is often so close to the surface that a 100-year-old black spruce may be only a few feet tall. But caribou, Dall sheep, Arctic ground squirrels, grizzly bear, and other hardy species seem to thrive on the harsh life. You'll even see an occasional wolf as you explore the area which man calls Denali National Park. Down along my Alaskan mountain chain, volcanic cones await their turn to erupt. Days are years in the future, and that day does eventually come. My island volcano, that's this one. It's a little light, but you can see it back in the back of the picture. My island volcano, Mount Augustine, erupted in 1986. Earthquakes and tsunamis, those are the giant waves, spawned out of them, continue to occur along my coastal zone. That part of me is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Sometimes these mighty forces of nature permanently change the ground level by many feet and send waves of water 100 feet high dashing into the shore. This particular little town, the land dropped about 10 feet. Many times a town is demolished, and rebuilding, if it starts, may be many miles from the previous site and on higher ground. By geological standards, I am young, and I am situated where natural events of the earth continue to happen, and thus I am very exciting. Many say that I'm also very beautiful. This picture was taken just outside of Denali National Park where we were camping at 11:30 p.m. Civilization has moved my way and is rapidly spreading out along the roads, often far from towns. But if you like your gems still in the rough, hasten your step and come to my great land. I won't always wrap you in the curtain of an aurora borealis, but if you'll get a bit away from my beaten track, you'll experience some of my basic processes, such as these examples. The tremendous power of a glacier to reshape the land, the battling of a salmon to reach the spawning grounds and the stream of its birth. And look up in that tree and you'll see two bald eagles sitting there. You see a lot of them in Alaska, but you don't get too close. And so the third one is the predator-prey relationship in the eagle-fish drama. And in you, perhaps we find a warm glow that means that in some small ways you have rekindled a love for Mother Nature and have reestablished a tie with her. When you feel that tie loosening, return to my great land. I'll be changed, but I'll be here, ready once again to unfold my beauty and my drama and to refill your cup to overflowing. That's the end of my opening essay, and now we're going to start off down in the southeast. This is the people call it the Panhandle, but this is the southeast and goes along the coast there. This down here is British Columbia, and this is all the Yukon Territory here. And then after we finish down in here, and we got a lot to see down there, glaciers and everything else and towns, we will come over up to Fairbanks here, and then we will go into Denali National Park. We'll come down into this area to see the Alaska brown bears at Brooks Camp, and we will only go about 12 miles north of Fairbanks. That'll be our northernmost point. And we will start, I want to show you the border. This is the border, unprotected, just out there. This is Alaska. This is the Yukon Territory of Canada. That's the kind of border I like. And then we go down to Ketchikan. Now this is Creek Street. Creek Street is along here. This is the creek that it's named for. This is a salmon stream. Now at this point, our boat is somewhere out beyond those houses. There are a lot of boats in here, but we're a little back there. And I have one of these houses as a real strange house that I think can only happen in Alaska. And that's Dolly's house. Now Dolly's profession, she was a madam. And if you look inside of her house, you can tell. Dolly was a madam, and where but Alaska would you have that as a museum? Ketchikan also has a totem park, and it's really, really neat. I don't know the lady at the base there, but I would judge she was about 5.5 feet high, to give you an idea of how high that totem pole really is. Now we're going to go on what they call the Beam Canal. Now the word canal up in Alaska is a misnomer. These are fjords. These are not carved by man. They are not canal in our usual way of thinking of it. And so this is the Beam Canal, and we're going down to Misty Fjords. We're on a small boat. It only holds about 60 people, and we will be on it throughout southeast Alaska, excuse me. This is a doll porpoise. They'll get to be about 27 feet. It is awfully hard to photograph them. All this black is him, and this white, not this white. This white is him also. He was playing tag with the bow of our ship as we were going through, having a great old time. Just diving under it and going around. Now, I mentioned the eagles before. What they tell you is look for golf balls up in the forest, and that will be the head of a bald eagle. And there's a pair up in the top of this tree. You see quite a few of them, but you don't see them real close. And this is the new Eddystone Rock. This is in the Beam Canal as we're heading down. That rock is 237 feet high, right in the middle of this body of water. It's a little shock to see. It's very picturesque, though. And then we get down into the Misty Fjords, and this is the Punch Bowl Cove, and these cliffs are about 3,000 feet high, Rudyard Bay, and then we have some of those wonderful waterfalls. And our captain, we had only been on the ship now for about half a day, and he wanted to show us just how good it was and how he could handle it. And he put the bow of our boat right against the rock there, and he had two people from the galley come, and one collected water in a pitcher from that waterfall, and one collected it from water in this waterfall. And then he backed the ship out, turned around, and we headed out. As soon as he got through that, he says, would anybody mind if I woke you up about 6 to 7 in the morning? That's when we will be getting to Clarence Strait, and that's our first chance to see humpback whales. And so you're seeing two. You're seeing a mother and young. This is the mother, this is the young. She probably will go, at least 35 tons. And this young at this time is probably only 12 to 15 tons. These whales will be up to 50 feet in length. And I just love this picture. Look right in the middle, and that is the blowhole of a humpback whale. See, they are mammals. They breathe air just like you and I, and they have to expel that air. Now, they might have been down below, but they have to come up periodically and expel the air before they can go down. Now, when you see one like this and the tail is like that, it is beginning a dive, and then just a few seconds later, or maybe 1 second later, you will see the fluke or tail standing up, and it's going to bid you goodbye for, some people say, as long as 25 minutes that it can stay down. And I love this one. This is my artistic whale fluke going down. It was late, that's not the same whale. It was late afternoon, and the colors and the shadows on the water were just fantastic. And here's this whale diving. So that's the artistic model of the whale fluke. Now, we're back in the channel, and we're on our way to a little town called Wrangell. And Wrangell has a place in it called Garnet Ledges. And a lady owned garnet ledges. These are not jewelry quality garnets, but these are commercial quality garnets. And her will, when she passed away, left all of Garnet Ledge to the Boy Scouts especially, but to all of the kids of the town. And they can go out there and gather garnets and then sell them to the tourists for their spending money. And that's what this little group down here is doing. And these gals are greeting us by dancing the can-can, which was kind of nice. And little old town, remember it, Wrangell, Alaska. Was really neat. They have a wonderful ceremonial center and one of the nicest of the totem parks here. Here's two of the beauties there. Really neat. Now we're going on over to Sitka. And we're going through country like this. It's really neat. And we get to Sitka, and you can see the bridge that a bus would come over. And the harbor and the town. You can't just drive to Sitka. You have to get there by water or air. And here is some of that beautiful rainforest. Man, do they get the water, the rain up in this part of the country. And looking over now, you can see our boat and a little part of the town. You can see another float plane. I think our cabin was one of these two right here. But what we were there, we went to the Archangel dances. And I remember, because I saw this boat right after we left. This has been carved out of a log. The Archangel dances have brought back dancing that used to be very important. When these ladies of the town decided to do this, they couldn't get any men interested in it. And now that it's so successful, men want to get in on the dancing and so forth, and the ladies will not let them. All the male parts are covered by females, and you're not allowed any pictures in there. So that's why I'm showing you this canoe. But that was a kind of an interesting thing, and boy, they can really dance. This is St. Michael's Cathedral. We will see this, I think, in the next picture as well. Yes, this is it right here. Now behind it is a more Russian-influenced church also. Remember Russia, Sitka, Russia. I like lighthouses, so I take pictures of lighthouses any chance that I get. And then I was taking that picture of the town from up on this hill, which is called Castle Hill. And there was a battle years ago fought here, and you can see some of the cannons from it. And now we're going to leave Sitka, and we're going to go up through Peril Straits. It's 22 miles, and we're heading to Glacier Bay National Park. Big cruise ships cannot do this at all. We were asked when we started by the tour director to count the number of bald eagles we saw because they have a little contest. 22 miles of Peril Strait, and we counted 64 bald eagles. Rocks and water, and then this eagle finally flew right over the boat. And you can see you can't see the white of his head so good, but you can see the white out at the end of his wings. He also has some white on his tail, a mature bald eagle. So we did get to see one real close, and we got to see a lot at a distance. Now we had come out of either this inlet or this inlet, and we are going up in through here. When Captain Cook sailed these waters a little over 200 years ago, the ice was all the way out to here. He could not go in here at all. John Muir, the great naturalist and one of the founders of the Sierra Club, could get up to here. Muir got up to here. He was about 100 years after Captain Cook. And now I have not been up in Muir Inlet, but you can go on up in there. And we came this way, and we're going to go into the John Hopkins Inlet here. But I also will show you at the tail end of the program from the sky something about this. This is the Grand Pacific Glacier. This is the Marjorie Glacier, and this is the Canada is on the other side there, the Yukon. And we are in Glacier Bay National Park. And these birds are all on South Marble Island. I think those little guys are guillemots. See, this little one is in the air, and he's got those nice little feet. And then the birds got a little discontented with this eagle, and so they chased him. This is the eagle here. And all of these birds have just ganged up on him, and he's had enough. He's going. And here is a glacier that is really something. That is a high glacier. And some of the mountains of Glacier Bay as we move our way back in. This is the Fairweather range of mountains here. And this particular one has, this is a mountain, and it has glaciers on all sides of it. If it persists and the glaciers do not cut it away, when the glaciers fade away, it will be known as a glacial horn. There's a couple of them down in Glacier National Park in Montana. One out on the Going to the Sun Road is especially impressive because it was carved and all the glaciers around it have gone away over the eons of time. Still in Glacier Bay now, still in Glacier Bay, and we will be for a few moments. This is the, I believe this is the Reed Glacier. Yeah, that's the Reed Glacier. And this is part of the Lamplugh Glacier, and we're going to do a bow landing, and they're letting us go ashore Look at the garments on these people, so you know it's a little chilly. And the glacier is right there. And here's how they did it. They just came in and put a gangway from the bow, and we got ashore. Now, we were going past the John Hopkins Inlet. We were going up to the Grand Pacific Glacier, and the second mate was on the wheel, and he said, I think we can get in there today. Nobody's been in there this year, but I think we can go. So he went. I hope he checked with the captain, but he might not have. He might have done it all on his own. And here's some of the stuff that you see as going in. And here is looking right at the front of the John Hopkins Glacier. And this is the Hopkins Glacier. And down at the bottom, in the little bit of open water, is birds circling around. And in this one, still the front of the glacier, these long streaks here, that is black, and that is volcanic material from eruptions. Oh, they might have been 100 or more years ago that got deposited on the glacier, and the glacier is somewhere on the glacier. And the glacier is now moved to the front where those are now visible. Probably by now they're not visible because this picture was taken a while back. And then in that same environment with all those glaciers and ice and so forth is a rainforest in Glacier Bay National Park. Now we've gone to the northernmost town that you can go to on the inside passage, and that is Skagway. This was the way. This was the way to go to the gold rush up in the Yukon, and Skagway itself had a gold rush. Gold was discovered here in 1880, and it was a minor thing. It wasn't as big as the Yukon one. In Nome, gold was discovered in 1898, and in Fairbanks, 1902. But the gold these people were going to was across the border out of Alaska to the Yukon Territory. And here is the main street. This is the oldest building in Skagway. And then we just, everything's very close by. We walked out to the little dirt airport, and this is that Lynn Canal that I mentioned. Here's now the view of the Lynn Canal. And this is fireweed in the foreground here. And you gotta believe that it was not carved by man. So what I told you before of canal applies. And then if you're on the train going over to Whitehorse, you would see this trail down below you. And that was the trail that the old miners used to get on up into the Yukon Territory. In this little town of Skagway that we have been looking at, in 1897 to 98, it went from one cabin to 15 to 20,000 people in 3 months. Talk about growth. Excuse me. Robert Service was the Yukon poet, and he wrote something called The Spell of the Yukon. And I select pieces out of that because the Yukon looks so much like Alaska, and the thought processes, of everything is so much that I feel free to pick up from Robert Service's poem and tell you about it as though it were Alaska. I wanted the gold and I got it. Came out with a fortune last fall. Yet somehow life's not what I thought it. And somehow the goal isn't all. No, there's a land. Have you seen it? It's a cussedest land that I know. From the big dizzy mountains that screen it to the deep death-like valleys below. Some say God was tired when he made it. Some say it's a fine land to shun. Maybe, but there's some as would trade it for no land on earth. And I'm one. And I'm another. We are on our way going down to Haines now. And you're going to see a few waterfalls here. And mountains and the canal. And here's another waterfall. They're all along here. And across the way is Haines, that town over there. They took us around on a bus, and that is actually our boat there. But we ate at Haines. We ate right in this place here. These are the Chilkat dances, and we were served charcoal broiled salmon. They broil it outside like they do chicken at the fairs and so forth, and it was absolutely delicious. And behind all of this is where the eagles come in November to fish, and in that river will be as many as 12 to 1,500 bald eagles. But you have to be there in November, so it's going to be cold. Now, telling you just a little bit about what you're looking at, these Chilkat dances. This man with the patch over one of his eyes is the one who has regenerated this, so to speak, this Chilkat dances group. And he is from Cleveland. I thought that was kind of interesting. Now we're going on down, and this is Juneau, the capital. This is the Davis Log Cabin. This is one of the oldest places in Juneau. And then looking, not too far from that spot, looking down to the dock, our boat is on ahead of that cruise ship. Our boat is down in here. And this is the canal, the inside passage it's called, going on down. This is the St. Nicholas Russian Orthodox Church, and this, I have a date for this one. This one goes back to 1894. Russia was purchased, Russia sold. We purchased Alaska from Russia in 1867 for $7.2 million, less than 2 cents an acre. And yet, the man who arranged it, William H. Seward, it was called Seward's Folly. Why would anybody want Alaska? It became the 49th state in 1959 when Ike was president. Now, I'm talking to you in 2009, and this is the governor's mansion in Alaska. The capital of Alaska is not Anchorage, it's Juneau, and this is the governor's mansion. Then going into the exhibit, there's a beautiful one, museum there, just gorgeous and very well worthwhile spending at least an hour in it, which we did. We spent more than that. This is the only picture I'm going to show you from in there because I've talked a lot about eagles, and I wanted you to see their beautiful display on how the eagles nest. See, the eagles nest in the same nest year after year after year, and they keep building on it. An eagle nest can weigh up to a ton, and sometimes you wonder how it doesn't break the tree down, but somehow or other, they keep on going. And then this is the street that we walked down to get back to our boat. We're going over now into Tracy Arm. Tracy Arm is the location of the Sawyer Glacier, and these are ice flows on the way in. And yes, we have some more waterfalls. One there and a completely different one here. And notice in this one, there's a hole in here and a slight waterfall coming down through that that hole almost at the bottom. A few seals on the ice, well, one seal there, and then the Sawyer Glacier. Now these, you're not allowed any closer than 1/4 of a mile from the face of a glacier because of ice shelves down below that can break off and come up and capsize your boat, a pretty good sized boat too. And while we were there, the captain got on the PA system and said, grab hold of something, she's calving and we're going to get a swell. And this is on the boat itself. And here's a seal down in this corner. I never noticed him before. And what it's doing is taking about this and making an iceberg of it by dropping it. It wasn't too bad. We did get shaken up a little bit, but not too bad. And then we went on. And this is a narrow passageway, and we're on the way up to Petersburg. Petersburg is known for canned salmon. They do a lot of canning and salmon, but notice that beautiful mountain behind Petersburg. A lot of Petersburg is on stilts because of the water, and they want to allow for a lot of water, especially in the spring. Now here's another group of women and well, young people as well, and they also don't allow any men in the group because they wouldn't help when they were starting it, and so they don't let them in today. And we were in Norway Hall, and they actually served us lunch and so forth here, so it was a pretty good visit for us. Now we're going into one more place before we go over to the other part of Alaska. We're going into the LeConte Glacier. The ice flows and the waterfalls and just everything, so really great. And here is the LeConte Glacier. This to me is the most impressive one that we saw on the whole of these trips, the LeConte Glacier. Here's a beautiful ice flow, but if you see that dark blue, you got to know that that is deadly. That is really concentrated and heavy, so don't let your boat hit it, or you might crush your hull. And I like this fluted one. That's a really great one. And there is one at the base of the glacier here that is pretty neat, really dark. And then you look over to the side and here are all these seals. How would you like to get out there and lay out on the ice and go to sleep? You might never wake up, but these seals just love it. And then the glacier once more. And now that's the last of the ship tour and of Southeast Alaska, and we're going to move over to the other part. We're going to be up at Fairbanks, and I told you earlier we'll go about 12 miles north of Fairbanks so we can see the pipeline in a good place. And we'll come back into Denali National Park, down to Anchorage. We'll come out, we'll fly, this is a flight here, out to King Salmon, and then we'll go to Katmia National Park and the Brooks Camp. Then we'll come down to the Kenai Peninsula here, and we'll go down out to Homer and down to Seward, and then we will come once more from Anchorage to go by rail over to Whittier, and then by boat over to Valdez. And then this last loop here is back to the airport to return. We're at the University of Alaska at Fairbanks, and the gold display is a little different than I portray it, and it's in another building. They have put up an out-and-out museum. the basement of that last building you saw is where I took this picture. And this picture, gold display at the museum, brings me back to Robert's service. There's gold, and it's haunting and haunting. It's luring me on as of old. Yet it isn't the gold that I'm wanting so much as just finding the gold. It's a great big broad land way up yonder. It's a forest where silence has lease. It's a beauty that thrills me with wonder. It's a stillness that fills me with peace. And also attached to the University of Alaska is a muskoxen farm. And they do research on these animals because they don't want them to go extinct. The animal itself normally lives above the Arctic Circle, and it has very close to its body, under all that coarse fur, let's call it, that you see, it has another material called quivet. And quivet has roughly about 8 times the warmth properties as sheep's wool. So it's very valuable. And the ladies, the native ladies, use it and knit all kinds of things out of it. So that's a very interesting animal to see. I have been told that this is the northernmost golf course in the world, and that's one of the greens. Now, do you see any green out on there? But if you land on somewhere on this sand and whatever, you are allowed to take this roller and roll, you can see right here, and roll yourself a path out to the hole and then try your putt. I'm not a golfer, so I don't know much about it, but the northernmost golf course in the world. Then we went out to the pipeline, and that I wanted you to see. Note when it comes across the ridge there, it is buried. That is a south-facing ridge, and the permafrost is further down. When it flattens out, the permafrost is maybe 11 to 13 inches or something below the surface. And the oil is flowing at 140 degrees, and even jacketed, it will melt permafrost. So you have to jack it up like this, and these things on top are to dissipate the heat so it will not melt the permafrost. But even so, with an $8 billion pipeline, a number of places they have to use cross ties to prop it up to keep it from sagging when permafrost does go ahead and melt regardless. Interesting thing, that's 12 miles north of Fairbanks. And now we're going to drop down into Denali National Park. What a place, what a place. This is the park entrance. Fairbanks is this way, Anchorage is this way, This is the park entrance, and we're going to go out with one of their shuttles all the way out to Wonder Lake and then Kantishna, and we will spend, that's 93 miles, and we will spend a couple of nights out there. And I put down airfield because I will also show you a flight seat that I did with a bush pilot, and I think 3 of our people were in the back. I had the co-pilot seat, I'll show you that. And then we flew out across this area to Mount McKinley, Denali, as the natives call it, for what's known as a flight C. And we're on that shuttle going in now. Mount McKinley National Park was established in 1917. We're very close to the size of Massachusetts. It was redesignated in 1980 to Denali National Park and Preserve, but nobody adds the and preserve, they just call it Denali National Park. Much of the park area is taiga. That's called the land of little sticks. It's little shrubby type trees and so forth. You don't have any big trees here. Very scant tree growth, some down along the rivers and so forth. The evergreen trees are usually white and black spruce, but they're not very high. The deciduous trees would be aspen, paper birch, and balsam poplar. That's about all. Low shrubs on this tundra, herbs and so forth. And it's dirt roads all the way out. This is the area called polychrome, and we're looking down at the river that doesn't have much water in it now, but it does in the spring. And here you can get an idea of the layer on top and so forth. And even that layer will have permafrost in it. The plants don't have all of that layer to grow in because they can't get through the ice. And there is Denali. We were up there 3 times, and only on the 3rd time did we get to really see Denali like this. But you're going to see it a number of times. Now in Wonder Lake, the first time we were out there, we noticed this little guy. He's an Arctic tern, and he flies 25,000 miles a year. He comes up here for the late spring and summer and early fall, and then he flies to the southern tip of South America for the rest of the time. On these shuttles going out, different people are driving them, and the young fellow who was driving ours is from Fairbanks. He said he'd been driving for a few years, and he'd never seen a wolf. And I think he said, and I can't check this figure for sure, I think he said there are about 70 wolves in Denali. But Denali is almost the size of Massachusetts, and he had never seen one, and we saw 2 on this particular trip. And he was as thrilled as any of the passengers that he had. So that is a wolf in the wild. There's a grizzly bear. Now, they will not let you out of the bus as you're going in. You can put the windows down and they will stop, but you are not allowed out when there's wildlife there. And this is a grizzly bear. Now you're going to notice a good bit of difference between his size and when we get down into Brooks Camp, because he's eating vegetables and stuff like that, lily bulbs and whatever, and the others are eating salmon. Now I put this slide in to show you caribou at a distance, but then look down here and you will see a black bear heading over towards the caribou. Now I think the caribou can take care of themselves against the black bear, so there's no problem, but I did not see that black bear in the picture until I got home and saw him. And here is that wolf again. I blew him up a little. I did not get excellent pictures of him. As some of these animal pictures, boy, they're really hard to do. But there is a second wolf. Those are the only 2 that I have seen in a while in my life. Now in the foreground here is our friend, the fireweed again. Really is beautiful. And then another mountainside. I can't promise you everything, but some of those white spots on there are Dall sheep, and I do not have a close-up picture of Dall sheep. What I do have a close-up picture of is ptarmigans. This is a little Bantam-size bird, and they're in their summer plumage right now. As the winter comes on, they will be white as snow, and against snow you can hardly see them except for that beady little eye and that beak. That's about the only way you're going to see him. And here's another caribou. He is slightly out of focus, but you can see that huge rack on his head. We'll see some more later on. And here's the mountains. In the foreground, there's a little white, and that is cotton grass. We'll see it in its splendor later on. Here's a stream in the mountains in the background. Oh, there's so many beautiful pictures, and the shuttle bus goes right across that little bridge. Those bridges aren't real great, but they're serviceable and they're strong, so that's all you worry about. And the mountains again with the snow on them, just really grand. And then I looked out the window and took a picture of a little red fox there. A little bit later on, in the left side, he was on the right side, and the left side, as we were passing these rocks, here's this marmot, and I was really close to him. Now, the closest thing we have to him would be the woodchuck and or groundhog, and both of them hibernate, but this guy, the marmot, he lives about a timberline, which along here is 3,000 feet or so, is about timberline, because it gets kind of cold up here. And then in this little puddle of a pond, that's a beaver in there. And then two more pictures here that go together. This is a bull moose. This is the largest bull moose my wife and I have ever seen. That's part of him, and here is his head and rack. I had to take two pictures to get the whole animal. Now, the bull moose is the largest of the deer family. They're 8 to 10 feet long, and they're about 5 to 7 feet at the shoulder. This guy will weigh about 2,000 pounds. The range is about 800 to 2,000, but he is far and away the biggest one we have ever seen. 20-year lifespan, and that guy can run 35 miles an hour. And it's almost sunset. And that brings me back to Robert's service again, and the spell of the Yukon. The summer, no sweeter was ever. The sunshiny woods, all a thrill. The grayling a-leap in the river, the bighorn asleep on the hill. The strong life that never knows harness. The wilds where the caribou call. The freshness, the freedom, the farness. Oh God, how I'm stuck on it all. And then we got to Kantishna, and this is where the gold mine, this is the same building that the gold miners stayed in when they came out here. Of course, they probably had a lot of people jammed into there each night. Now, at Kantishna, there's a little lodge, and they're separate cabins, which I will show you. But a lady brought her dogs, her Alaskan Huskies, down and set up a dog yard so you could see what one looked like. She has her dogs mostly at northeast out of Fairbanks, and she is one of the mushers. And here is one of the, you can walk out in the dog yard and talk to them. She has the names of them there, and this guy is ready to go. She's going to give us a demonstration on wheels, not on skids, of how they harness the dogs and how they handle the mushing. And then here is our cabin right there. We stayed in that for a couple of nights. And then looking out is the mountains. Mount McKinley is 20,320 feet above sea level, but arises from a lowland of only about 2,000. Thus you see a lot of mountain. There are 37 mammal species in this park, 157 species of birds, and so forth. And I just want to tell you one more thing. The winter temperature lows at the 14,500 foot level, minus 95 degrees. Ooh. That's really something. Now we're going on a flight sea, and we're going in this plane with a bush pilot, and I think there were 3 of our people in the back, and I had the co-pilot's seat. And we're flying over to the mountains, which is about 45 to 50 miles over to Denali. And this is what the countryside under us looks like as we make our way over. These are mountains, but this isn't Denali yet, and it's just really fantastic. And then flying over the mountains. And he would take us down to show us glaciers and show us a possible route that they use when they try and scale Mount McKinley and so forth. And it really is neat. And all of this from a plane. Now, we're not on oxygen, but we're over 20,000 feet because the mountain is 20,000 feet. But you're just sitting there, just go ahead and breathe and you're okay. And it's just a fantastic sight. And this glacier looks almost like a road. And on we went. It was just lovely. And here's a glacier, another glacier going down. And look at that blue sky behind there against that white snow. Just fantastic. Ridges and all kinds of things as we go on down. We'll be leaving the mountain shortly, and we have to fly back and land on a little dirt strip as we go across. There's another glacier going down. Now this one has quite a bit of debris alongside of it. And we have left the mountain now, and this is some of the terrain as we make our way back. And then the next picture is going to be out from Kantishna again, and we're panning for gold in the stream, and we actually found some. I have about 11 flakes of gold at home, and this is my wife here, and she actually has found more flakes than I did. And they encased them in plastic for us, and we brought them on home. So that's panning for gold. And then we're on the wagon, and I'm looking at the horses that took us out to pan for the gold, and they're taking us back to the lodge at this point. And then Wonder Lake. Wonder Lake is just a fantastic place to see the mountain and everything else. A little bit towards sunset, 2 views. See, we had several days that we could go out here, so these are composite of those days. And here is a mountain reflected in a lake. That's not Denali, but it makes a beautiful picture. And then here's a close of the tundra vegetation. Very colorful stuff, but really, really low. And there's Denali, with Denali's cluster of mountains, you might call it. And then here is where you get your thrill. That is Blueberry Hill. I found my thrill on Blueberry Hill, and we had been up on top taking pictures and looking at the vegetation and so forth. Here's some more of the tundra, very colorful, and this is autumn now. We're actually just into September, the first few days of September. Now, many people have been out in the American West and have seen this guy. This is a magpie, and you'll see him up here as well. And here's Denali as the sun's going down. And I have a couple of that. There it is again. And then a caribou. That's a fairly big animal, and look at that rack that he carries around all the time. And there's old Denali again. And then first a bull moose, and then a cow moose. And then another one of the caribous. Those caribous are really something. Well, I like the moose too. I like them all. And then here's Denali. My notes say Denali and Little Black Cloud. Looking across to that mountain that we just flew over. And here's a little closer of it, pulling it in a bit. And I'm pretty sure that this is a trumpeter swan on Wonder Lake. And then a few more pictures. You just can't get enough of Denali, the highest mountain in North America. And it's just, with all that snow and stuff on it, it really is magnificent. So it's hard to stop taking pictures of it. And my notes say, last one with a black cloud. Now, there was an accident. A tractor trailer came in. They have to come in at night to bring in supplies, and he took a turn too much, and he was hanging over the road. So they had to fly us back out to our tour van to get us out of Denali. So this is from another bush pilot plane that we didn't know we were going to do, and that's the road and the river down below, and they just took us out to the tourist place. Now what you're seeing now is from out on the highway, and that is Denali from the highway on that third trip. And here are some other mountains that they pale by comparison with Denali, but they're beautiful nevertheless. And along that highway is the best beaver dam I have ever seen. We didn't see the beaver, but boy, he really put together a dam. And there's a cow moose in a pond. And she sticks her head down and gets some of the vegetation that's growing down, and then brings her head back up and munches on it for a while. Now we're heading south out of Anchorage. We'll be coming to Anchorage later, down on the Kenai Peninsula, and we're going over towards Homer. And this is the first scene along that road. Now here's Turn Lake in the mountains. If we're going off to our right there. If we went down through there, we would go to Seaward, and we will go down through there in a little bit. But here is the Kenai River, and this fireweed in the foreground. And here is the same river further on, and those are salmon fishermen all over there. I just showed you a small part of them. The trees block me, but there are at least 100 people out there fishing for salmon. And I mentioned cotton grass before. Here is cotton grass. That is a nice stand of it, just a beautiful flower. And you've been hearing a little bit about the Alaska Range across Cook Inlet these days, because Mount Redoubt is sputtering like the volcano that it is. But we're down almost into the little town of Homer, and looking across it. This Cook Inlet you would follow off to our right, and you would go up to Anchorage. And you follow this Alaska chain of mountains on up, and you get to Denali. This is the little town of Houma on a Sunday. We think everybody in Alaska brought their RV down for that Sunday afternoon, but that's it. And this is Mount Iliamna. Mount Iliamna is a little over 10,000 feet, and that's still on the Cook Inlet. That's daytime, and here is the same mountain almost at sunset. Kind of beautiful. And here is the mountain that there have been, as soon as I get it to change, this is the mountain that they have been concerned with that it might blow. This is Mount Redoubt. All of those I'm shooting across Cook Inlet. Now we're going back up to Anchorage, and this is Turnagain Arm. When Captain Cook sailed these waters, it's 250 years ago or so now, he had about 200 feet of water under his ship. Now it's mostly sand. A lot of it is sand. And here's the birding area, very close to the city. They say that in migration time you can see a tremendous number of species out in this area. Here is Anchorage. The first time we went on Alaska trip, we stayed in a hotel fairly high up in the city. And these streets in the 1964 Good Friday earthquake, these streets all dropped. And it was a real mess. And this building down here, they said it swayed as much as 30 degrees and is still there today. The last time I saw it, it didn't look like it had much occupancy, but it is still there. That was one earthquake. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Now from that room up in the hotel, I looked across Cook Inlet and took this picture. You'll see it's got banks of clouds over there, and I only had that one mountain. The next morning, I used the telephoto a little bit, but I took the same picture, and there is the whole Alaska range. Now you go this way down by Houma where we were, you go this way to get up to Mount McKinley or Denali. And I give you a sample of flowers in Anchorage, and boy, they have them all the way around. Now we're going down to Katmia National Park, and there's how to get to Anchorage. And what they do, they fly you from Anchorage on a jet to King Salmon over here, and then you transfer to a float plane to get down into Brooks Camp here. And the Brooks Lake is what you land on, and then you go in. Here's the Valley of 10,000 Smokes, but they're not smoking much anymore. It's very inactive. But this is the boat that brought us over from King Salmon to the Brooks camp. And they try and get it as close as possible so you don't get your feet too wet, but no guarantees. Katmia became a national monument in 1918 because of that Valley of 10,000 Smokes. And the new name, Katmia National Park, came in about 1980. Now, these will not be excellent pictures, except when I get to a mother bear. These are Alaskan brown bears, which are grizzlies, and you will see a number. We saw quite a few bear, but boy, it is hard to photograph them. They're far away, and things are moving and so forth. So anyhow, we will take a look at them. Mature males will be about 900 pounds, but after they hibernate, they have lost several hundred pounds. This is pretty close to them, but I got one that we were even closer to, and he didn't know it, and we didn't know it until we were there. But these are very dangerous bears. and you don't want to monkey with them too much. I could only hope that that one had turned out clearer, but you can get the gist of the bear and everything about him there. Now we were walking back to the camp area, the lodge area. It's very primitive, and we looked, and here is a bear laying right down here. You can see his ears, and here's his nose out here. This is a grizzly bear, an Alaskan brown grizzly bear, and we're walking right by him and didn't even know it at the time. But later on, we went back over, and that bear wasn't there anymore. We went back over to the Brooks Falls. Now, in the tail end of June, there will be a number of grizzlies fishing here. But there are not as many salmon at this time because we're into September now. But we got over there, and here comes a mother grizzly, mother Alaskan brown. I should be calling them Alaskan brown because that's what they call them. But you can see the hump on her and tell that she's a grizzly. She had 3 cubs back in there. There they are. One here and one here, and she's out from them now. She had 3 cubs back there, and here are the 3 again. And here she is. She's out. It looks like, almost looks like she's talking to that gull there. And then she leans down and she catches a salmon. And here you can see the salmon in the foreground here, down in the water, and she's already got one in her mouth eating them. And then she supplied some to her cubs, but she ate her own fair share. And then when we were walking back for the last time to the lodge and we would be leaving, we saw this one out on the point of right by the trail. And then we left, and on our way, we got to Anchorage, and then we came down again because we want to go to Seward, and this is the Alyeska ski resort at Gerwood. So we were up on the lift at this point, and that was Turnagain Arms, that body of water there. But up on the lift, we saw this glacier, and that was nice, and another glacier, and oh boy, lots of glaciers. And then down at the little village-like area, there was flowers. This was a lunch stop, incidentally, and there was a place there, and I'd never heard of this before. It's some wonderful soup, and they give you refills, just like they do coffee in some places, and don't charge you extra for it, so you can eat a couple of bowls of soup for lunch, and it really is good soup. Now we went on over then to the Portage Glacier area, and the Byron Glacier is here also. So there's the lake and the glacier back in there. Now the man down there is standing on snow. The Byron Glacier is this glacier back here. This is all snow. There's not ice under there, at least not yet. Oh, there might be a little skim of it. Now you saw a number of ice floes over in the southeast, but you didn't have anything to compare them with. So here are some of the ice floes, and here's an automobile that you can compare it for size. And if you look very closely, this is a little rainbow coming across here. Nice, nice flows there, they really are. And then very close by, within walking distance, is this little salmon stream. And I got pictures of 2 salmon down in there. Now they're in the water, so you have to look. And here's the second one. And then what else? Another glacier. And then finally we're down at Seward. And here's the marina and some of the houses right at Seward. And I went out on the docks there, and here was a sea lion. The sea lion, he'll go 650 pounds and is eating. And then right by him is the gulls on the roof there, is what I note here. And now we are going into Kenai Fields in a moment, but right looking from Seward, you can see this mountain with a glacier tucked in there. And look at this waterfall and what they did with it. They put all these utility lines right in front of a waterfall. But anyhow, it's a beautiful waterfall. And then the harbor and the mountains and a rusty ship. Now, on Good Friday, 1964, a tsunami hit this area, and the water would have gone up to about that area from the tsunami, the great waves. Many times they're called tidal waves. They have nothing to do with tides. They are tsunamis or giant waves. Now we're going by boat into Kenai Fields National Park. And these little guys are sea otters. And they only about 3 feet long. Some of them weigh about 100 pounds, but they are the most curious things. What they do is dive down and get some kind of urchin or some kind of shellfish, and they'll get a rock, and they'll bring it up, and they'll turn over on their back, and they'll crush this thing and open it with their rock, and then they'll eat it. And maybe they bring up several, and then they'll do it again. If they get too much on their chest, they will just flip over in the water. They'll hold on to the rock, flip over in the water, and then when they finish, they will dive down and get some more and come back up. It's a nice way to have your food all fresh for you. This will not come into focus, but that is a puffin. That is a puffin. And we did not see too many. Some people go out here at different times, and you'll see a lot of puffins. We have seen more up in the islands off of Newfoundland than any other place. And remember, we're on a boat now, mountains and glacier. I just have this one labeled Rock Island and Dark Sky, and boy, it was dark. Here's another one of those doll porpoises, and you can see a little bit more of him. That white is on his side. He goes from there all the way down to here. A doll porpoise. He wasn't playing as much as the other one, but it was nice to see him. He's a porpoise, and excuse me, and there are quite a few of them in this national park, because a lot of this national park is water. That's the edge of a glacier, and then there's 3 different pictures of glaciers. So if you haven't seen any of the glaciers and haven't been in southeast Alaska, coming down to Seward and going by boat into this national park would be a great way to see some of the tidewater glaciers. And believe me, they're worth seeing. And then we saw this rocky point, and of course that makes a good picture. And we went over very close to it, and I took a picture through it to the terrain on the other side of it. Now, I'm going to have to show you this. You aren't going to be able to see them, but right up in here are 2 harbor seals right up on the top of that rock. They're about 6 feet long. I don't have a weight for them at this moment. These are cormorants. These are water birds, so to speak. Rocky edge in the tree. And look at the cascade coming down, just trickling on down all the way. And then as we were making a turn, I saw a bald eagle over on some of the dead wood of some of the taller trees. So there's a bald eagle. Now, we are off the boat, but we're in another part of that same national park. And this is called the Exit Glacier. And I took this picture, and those are some of our people there. And then I remembered seeing a sign back there, so I went back and took this picture. And the 1951 sign is where that glacier was in 1951. And it has receded that much and long enough for that foliage to grow. Now, we're going down to Whittier. We have gone back to Anchorage. We're coming down to Whittier, and we're going to go over to Valdez by boat. But the vehicle, our bus, had to be put on a flatbed rail car because there are no roads to Whittier. I understand that since I took the picture, since we were there the last time, that a road has opened. They were carving a tunnel through a mountain as part of it, and I understand that's been done. I've never seen it, but I understand it. This was part of the 1964 earthquake, and this land fell about 10 to 12 feet, just dropped. And then 3 views from the train. Now we're sitting in the bus on a flatbed rail car, and these are 3 views going over. Got to admit, that's some view. Just terrific. And now the next picture, we will already be on the boat. I won't show you the boat until we get over to Valdez. But we're on the boat now on the glacier in the mountain there. We're going to pass in front of the Columbia Glacier, which is one of the largest ones in Alaska. And these things that you see sticking up out of the water, these are killer whales. Killer whales are actually dolphins. They're the largest member of the dolphin family. There's one there. There are 2 in this picture. And the top speed is about 30 miles per hour. An adult male may be 27 feet and weigh 8 3/4 tons. And in the process of photographing them, we have moved out into Prince William Sound. I never have understood how these trees could grow right down to the water, and that is salt water. That should be rather toxic to them, but boy, they really grow. And these are the Chugach Mountains with snow on top of them. It's a little range, so it extends a ways. And that will be our backdrop for a little while. Island out in there. We're heading towards the Columbia Glacier now, and they're not too far from it. And snow-covered mountain with island. And then I went in very close on that mountain. It was a gorgeous one too. And then we got some seals here. Here's a single one, and well, there's 2 on there, but you really basically see the one. And then here is him a lot closer. His face looks very much like a sea otter, but the otter is only about 100 pounds, and this thing weighs quite a bit more than that. And ice flows as we approach the glacier, the mountains in the back, and a few more seals. Now there are at least 4 seals there. And then finally the Columbia Glacier. This is the Columbia Glacier back here. The Columbia Glacier is 440 square miles. It's 6 miles across and 40 miles long. It's about 200 feet high at its face. And what happens, it spawns icebergs and they float out and they stick on the sand out in front of it, part of the terminal moraine, but they have the same features as a regular old sandbar. And they hook the icebergs, and they won't move until next spring when the water level is higher. And that is the Columbia Glacier. And a few of the icebergs out in front of it. And I just labeled this one blue sculptured ice. And then a bald eagle sitting on top of the iceberg. As a matter of fact, I have a couple of pictures I took of him, because he moved around. He just stood there and moved around. He weighs up to 13 pounds. That one looked like he would be 13 pounds. And he has a wingspan of around 7 feet. And now he's getting serious about flying away. One more time and he'll fly. And here he is flying away. And the iceberg area that we're talking about is this stuff. See, the glacier is all the way back in there, and this is all debris out in front of it. And there is our friend the sea lion on a buoy. The male is up to a ton when you're talking about sea lions, but the female is about 650. And then it was getting towards darkness, and I saw this bald eagle. We were almost into Valdez when I saw this guy. And I was the only one on the boat that saw him, I believe. No, I was the only one that got a picture of him. And as we get into Valdez, the sunset, but you can still see something of it as the lights come on. From about there, all of this up on that ridge has to do with the southern terminus of the oil pipeline. And then the next morning, that's our boat. I found it in the marina, and that's the boat we came across from Whittier on. And Valdez Harbor looks like this, but a lot of the work at Valdez is pipeline. Now, old Valdez was destroyed in the 1964 earthquake, and it was rebuilt higher up. The Richter scale on that earthquake was 8.4 to 8.6. Anchorage and Portage, that little town I showed you that dropped, and Seward weren't the only ones hit. A lot of them were hit along this area. Now, as we're going back by bus, we have spent the night in Valdez. We're going back by bus, and the driver takes us right out to the airport, which I thought was neat. But as we're leaving Valdez, just north of it, is Horsetail Falls and Bridalveil Falls, and I can't believe it, but I couldn't find any name for this waterfall. And then we go on and some more mountains and snow, and then he stops the bus and lets us get out, and we stopped and walked in to the toe of the Worthington Glacier. And out by the Worthington Glacier, I found another waterfall. Now, these are part of the Wrangell Mountains, and we're making our way now on over towards Anchorage, and this will be the Matanuska Glacier. The glacier is 2 miles wide on average, but it's 4 miles at the terminus, and it comes 27 miles out of the Chugach Mountains. And here is a closer view of the Madawaska Glacier. Now I took that picture and then I looked to the west and took this picture. And if you look not just at the mountains, you can see some golden aspen here. Remember, we're in early September now, so you got a few of those. And then we get to the gardens at Palmer. Now we're just a short distance, relatively speaking,